right, here we go. We're going to talk about the 12 different ways of using Google Forms in our classroom, okay, to be a little more effective, a little more efficient in how we use them. Throughout the presentation, there'll be different slides here in case people are walking around, want to get a clip of these presentations, or if you want them for future reference later on. We're just going to talk about different ways of using the forms. If you don't know, forms.google.com is where we get started. Okay, and then we originally started out the basic ways of collecting forms. Has everyone seen or used a form before, whether you filled it out or you've created one, right? So the basic, we're going to get your name, your Twitter handle, email address, so forth, right? And then a couple other. This is actually just a link to one of those sample forms, right? Since we've all been there, we're not going to go there. But another way of being able to collect information is how students can help keep their grades, or we can help monitor hall passes, right? So we can create a form, and when the kid leaves, we don't have to worry about finding that notebook or anything. We can actually keep it in a Google form. They fill it out. And the nice thing about that, right, is we know when they leave because it's time-stamped. Every time you fill out a form, it's time-stamped. You know when they leave, you know when they return. Principal comes in, and you're like, hey, here you go. So we don't have to go filing through those pieces of papers as we have in the past. Another easy way is taking lunch orders. I'm not talking about your student lunch orders, right? I'm talking about when you're in a meeting and they give you a menu to choose from, and it's like 12 different items. Okay, let's create a quick form. Well, the nice thing about that is now we can share the results directly to that business, to that pizza place, and now when the orders come in, they know whose is whose. We don't have to take 20 minutes to call them all in and individualize that order, right? So just another way of using forms more effectively. Just a sample of how you share is that when you get into the form, the share button would be in your right corner, and then you can type in names, and you can determine how they can view the form, if you want them to be able to edit it or just make comments on it, or if you just want them to see it, right? Because there's some people, kids, co-teachers, administrators, that if they were to get into this form, they may really mess it up. So you can just give view access. The nice thing about forms, as we know, is that you can always revert back based on history. Okay. You can also set rules for notifications. So there's times where we have a form, but we want to be notified when new information is input in there, or someone changes the information, right? So you can set that notification within those sharing rules that says, boom, notify me every time there's a new submission to the form. So you can get an email directly to you that says, hey, you have a new response. Also an agreement form. How many times, especially I'm thinking of the start of school, right? And we have all of these different forms where you have to agree and you have to check off, like my student is allowed to be part of the photo consent form, right? And that's a sheet of paper. And then you have your technology agreement. That's a sheet of paper. Well, being able to put this into a form format that's easily searchable, where they can then sign off using a digital signature of so forth, that way we don't have to have 1,200 different forms, right, or pieces of paper. We have one form, and we can easily search because it's a spreadsheet, right? Help desk, procedures, just being able to create a form for help desk that students or teachers can fill out. Within those presentations, or within that form, you can also search, especially if you're talking about like a technology help desk type of situation. You can also track which devices are being broken and by who, right? Or which lab and why. Is it because of age? Is it because of, just miscare by a student in particular? So we can rework how we're doing our process and procedures within our classroom, within our school. Just a sample here where you can actually select the building. This is actually for a service center, so which region of the state it occurred, the device serial number, student name, and the issue, okay? And then they hit submit, it'll all be collected right there in that spreadsheet. How about some anonymous forms, right? So bullying is a big topic right now, and just a form that, QR codes throughout the school, or a quick link where kids can submit responses. We know how to turn notifications on now, so we know instantly when someone reports it, we're going to get an email, right? So just being able to change the way we're doing business. Every kid has a device anyway at this point, right? So why not utilize it? How about grading with a rubric? Okay? A lot of times, folks, especially teachers, don't know how easy it is to use a rubric within a form, right? So here I have my rubric, and as I walk around or I assess the student work, I'm able to instantly grade it. The nice thing is that it puts it in that spreadsheet format with student name, okay, and gives me their results of how I graded them. As we know with the form, right, it comes in a spreadsheet format. So question number 1 is going to be A or B, or in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? But at the next column where it's blank, we can do an auto sum, and we can sum those things up, right? So in this type of situation, we're like, boom, we have an instant way of grading by using formulas. We can also then run data and do data analysis if you understand formulas, okay? Student feedback and peer review. How many times do we get in a classroom, right, and students doing a presentation, and we have them fill out a piece of paper and we hand it to them? Well, now we can have them create a form, right, that obviously we will probably want the teacher to monitor so that we know that students are giving feedback, but it also allows you to know who's giving good feedback and who's just saying good job, right? Who's really analyzing that peer review. A great way to be able to get student feedback very quickly. How about an assignment Dropbox? Right? We're in the digital age, we're doing digital content, and the problem occurs, how do we collect it and how do we get it back, right? Well, this is one way we can do this. And really, I think Alice Keeler tweeted this out a couple days ago, that if you're not grading assignments at midnight, then why make them due? Right? So if they're going to sit there for a couple days, but we know by notifications being turned on when they're due and when kids submit them. Also, the nice thing about it, it's time stamped, right? So if we go to grade at midnight and they were due at midnight and the kid submits it at 7 a.m., you know that when the parent comes into the meeting to wonder why their grade didn't reflect that. So just a sample of a student Dropbox here. We have our first name, last name, right? And then we have assignments. And then they simply link their assignment. They put the assignment in their Google Drive, and they share the link right here. So what you see is the spreadsheet. You see the spreadsheet, and then you can take your MacBook or your Lenovo or your HP, right? You take it home with you. We don't have to carry stacks of papers anymore. We take that one device and we click on the link, and now we can grade it quickly. Get it back, and they already have a copy. Right? And we're editing it on their side. Also, we can have a grade column again as we go through it, okay? How about tracking teacher assessment data? So we're a teacher, right? And we have this thing where we have to prove that we're worthy of the raise next year, yeah? And so we can track that based on our assessment data, this is how we prove that concept. So whether I take a picture of it, okay, and I put it in my drive, I can have this form that says, I did complete this objective, and here's how I did it. Whether it's a whether it's a lesson plan, whether it's a presentation, okay, and now you can keep track of your own things. So when your admin says you didn't complete this task, boom, you did. But also on the flip side for administrators, walking through, just having a quick form saying, this is what we're looking for, and this is what I saw from you, right? A lot of times administrators come in and they're busy with their emails and this and that, and they have a piece of paper, and it takes like 4 days before you get a reflection. Well, now you can walk in, have a form ready, okay? The form's already set up by the administrator. They evaluate you when they walk out the door, okay? We can have something which we're gonna learn about in a second, where it automatically emails you what they saw and what they observed, right? And then you can move on from there, whether it needs to be a meeting or it's just good job, okay? We also have create your own adventures, right? So we can choose our path in the way we go about telling our story, right? So Johnny wants to drive a blue car or a red car, and then that takes them to a different type of form, right? And then they can drive off-road or on-road. And so they have these different options of being able to create their own adventure as they go through it, okay? And then how about a dichotomous key, right? So we're observing an object, okay? And we're trying to define what species this insect is. So does the insect have A, B, or C? Boom, takes you to the next form, right? And so now we have all these different guidelines set up, and then their end result will tell them whether they were right or wrong. It's easy for us to be able to assess that quickly and know we either didn't do a very good job teaching or that student didn't do a very good job of paying attention, right? And so we can use that evaluation. Here's one sample of the, if you use iPads in your classroom, right? So this iTunes user account has been a pain in the rear for kids 13 and under. So here is our process and procedure. So what we did is we put this in a form format. So instead of having to read through this, basically our tech liaisons would say, okay, is the kid 13 and under or not? And then they would, based on that, it would take them to the next form of what they had to do. And so they were able to get through that process quickly, as opposed to like, oh shoot, what happens at age 13? Are they part of the iTunes account or not? So very easy to set up those process and procedures. This seems very basic right here, right? We're talking about setting up, or parents can sign up for snack times or parent-teacher conference. That seems like a very basic form, right? But what if we change the game, okay? And we make this a very dynamic teacher conference form. And this would be actually a link directly to one. But let's say we use an add-on called Form Mule. And so when the teacher signs up for their time, or the parent signs up for their time, they receive an email that says, "Dear Mr. Jones, your child's time in conference will be on this date at this time based on your preferences you signed up for," right? So we don't have to then send that email reminder, it's already done for us, right? So Form Mule is gonna do work for us, okay? It'll allow us to set up those automatic email merges based on when you fill out a form, okay? How about Form Ranger? When we add that snack mix in those conferences, what Form Ranger allows you to do, right? In a basic form, everyone can select the same time, which could be a teacher headache. Form Ranger allows it to occur that when you go sign up for your conference, okay? When you go sign up for your conference, that once you submit it, those selections are no longer available. So we'll notice here, Abby W. and Monday, October 12th at 8:30 are no longer available to the next person coming in, right? And so and this is not a hard add-on. All you have to do is be able to type a number in a cell and then give it a result, okay? Something that's very easy and very effective to use. I'm going to go back here real quick and show you the sample of, I was talking about the Form Mule, right? And so the Form Mule is a sample. So they set up they submitted their information. And this allows me to create a draft of my email based on the information they filled out. So I set up one time, as soon as data is submitted, automatically gets emailed right to them. So they have that reminder available to them, okay? And then we have Flubaroo. Flubaroo will automatically grade these forms, right? Very, very neat. Very quick too, it's gotten a lot better. So basically here's our form data, okay? You can see we have responses. All I do is go to the add-on, Flubaroo. And then once it will pop up, I basically will identify the items I want to grade and what the correct answer is, okay? It then will automatically transpose this form that looks something like this into this, which says that you are correct or not correct. It will give the student percentages and grade it automatically for you, right? So we're talking about using Flubaroo to be a lot more dynamic in how we're using forms and especially grading. Yeah, it works really well, doesn't it? Yeah. So those are the 12 different ways of using Google Forms. Do you guys have any input? Anything that you would like to add to how you use it? Or questions? So the question is, parents sometimes can't fill out the form because they don't have a Google account, right? So there's two things. One, there's a setting that allows anyone to fill out a Google form in the share options. So in the share options, when you get the link, you can say anyone. as opposed to having a Google account. There's another problem though. If you're doing a form from your district Google domain, sometimes the tech administrators have locked down your ability to share anything outside of your district. So that would need to be a conversation that you'd have to have with appropriate chain of command within your district. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Great, thank you. Gave me a lot more tools to use.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
And all those are in here.